water companies have been fined just £2 for rule breaking despite record sewage. We're going to read into this exclusive from iNews, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from iNews with the headline that water companies have been fined just £2 for rule breaking despite the record sewage. Ofwat has been accused of not acting quickly enough to issue fines against water companies for sewage dumping. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. I've said this before, the fines don't mean anything. They don't mean jack crap. Nearly said the other word. The fines don't work. The fines will not work on these private companies. They don't care as long as they are paying out their shareholders and their executives are getting money. Everything else is secondary to them. Everything else is secondary. Until we nationalise our water companies, we're going to continue to have issues with these. And this headline once again adds insult to injury to the British public, the English public, shall we say specifically, because it's obviously English and Welsh waters that are suffering the most as a direct result of putting our water, something that we generally need to survive, under public, not having it in public ownership, and this is the consequences of doing so. There are ways of getting around the debts that they have, and it is, and I've said this before and I've said it again, it is a political choice to not nationalise our water companies. It is a political choice, and we know it's a political choice, and it's just going to continue to make things worse for us. And we must continue to pressure this government to push to nationalise our water companies. And it's just another sour taste in our mouths as record sewage goes into our rivers, lakes, and and seas. So water companies in England have been fined just £2 for Ofwat since 2021 for breaching regulations, the iPaper can reveal. Campaigners described the fines as pathetic and accused the regulator Ofwat of failing to hold water companies to account over sewage dumping. Ofwat, which has the power to fine water companies 10% of their annual turnover, said firms had agreed multi-million-pound compensation and investment package in line paying fines to the Treasury. If Ofwat suspects a company of rule breaking, it will open an enforcement case and announce its intention to fine the firm. However, this fine can be reduced if the water companies agreed to compensation packages for the customers. Since March 2021, Ofwat has issued fines against just two companies, Thames Water and Welsh Water, both of which were for £1. Neither of the fines were issued in relation to sewage dumping. Thames Water was fined £1 in 2021 after Ofwat found the firm was responsible for data errors that led to some customers being charged incorrectly. Well, that's nothing, is it? That's just nothing. It's a drop in the ocean to them. Ofwat originally threatened Thames Water with a fine equivalent to 1% of its turnover, but reduced this to £1 after Thames agreed to £11.3 million compensation package for affected customers, which is equivalent to 3% of its turnover. And in 2024, Welsh Waters was fined £1 after it was found to misreport its data on leakage over several years. So Ofwat originally proposed a penalty equivalent to 4.5% of turnover, that's around 15.2 million, but reduced this to £1 after Welsh Water proposed a compensation investment package that Ofwat said was worth 73 million to customers. Nick Brishcom, chief executive of the campaign group Wildfish, said, "Law breaking can occur almost every day, yet not only are the fines pathetic, they are almost non-existent. Ofwat fails to hold water companies to their statutory duty not to dump sewage in anything other than exceptional conditions, which have been in existence since 1994, and it's appalling. This failure to regulate has contributed to catastrophic underinvestments in our sewage infrastructure and destruction in our rivers. Ofwat has come under intense scrutiny as public anger has grown over the amount of raw sewage being dumped into Britain's lakes, seas, and rivers. Firms dumped sewage a record 464,000 times in 2023, sometimes during the dry weather. Water companies are allowed to release untreated sewage into the environment during periods of exceptional rainfall to prevent their systems from becoming overwhelmed, but evidence suggests that these spills are sometimes happening illegally. Ofwat is responsible for regulating water firms over a wide range of matters, including whether they maintain their infrastructure to avoid excessive releases of sewage into rivers. The Separated Environment Agency regulator can additionally issue fines for individual pollution instances, and it also pursues the prosecution of water firms through the courts, often resulting in financial penalties. I've said this before and I've said this again, these financial penalties do bugger all, guys. They're just not doing anything. Earlier this month, the Office for Environmental Protection, the OEP, the government's environmental watchdog, said Ofwat and the Environmental Agency has historically broken the law by failing to take enforcement action over sewage discharge. However, Ofwat is currently investigating all water companies in England and Wales over the management of their sewage network, and the OEP acknowledged that it has taken steps to change the way it implements the law. Earlier this year, Ofwat announced plans to fine 3 water companies, Thames Water, Yorkshire Water and Northumbrian Water, a collective £168 million for failing to maintain their networks. But it's yet to collect any money from these firms or confirm when the final penalty will be. Jane Wallace, Chief Executive of River Action, said according to Water Industrial Acts, Ofwat has a duty to enable a reasonable return to investors in water companies. It looks like they have taken this too seriously. The regulator will never drive the urgent change in this industry of polluters and profiteers until the threat of financial punishment is carried out. Separately, Ofwat also issues water companies with targets on reducing sewage spills and leaks and penalises firms when they fail to meet them. Ofwat says firms have collectively been penalised more than 430 million, which is paid back to customers via lower bills for failing to meet environmental targets since 2020. A spokesperson has said, fines are just one possible outcome of our enforcement action. We have also used our powers to secure other financial and non-financial commitments from companies to secure better outcome for customers, including redress. Since 2021, such enforcement action has resulted in over 50 million being returned to customers, and companies committed to spending over 150 billion of additional money to drive further service improvement. But the service has not improved. Have you noticed an improvement in your water service? Let you know down in the comments below. Since coming into power, Labour has set up an independent water commission, which is undertaking a wider range of review of the regulation of the water industry, which could see Ofwat being scrapped entirely. And it comes after the iPaper called for an overhaul of regulators as part of its Save Britain's Rivers campaign. A DEFRA spokesperson said for too long, water companies have pumped record levels of sewage into our rivers, lakes and seas. That's why we placed water companies under special measures through the Water Bill, which will strengthen regulation, including new powers to ban the payment of bonuses for polluting water bosses and bring criminal charges against persistent law breakers. We're also carrying out a full review of the water sector to shape further legislation that will transform how our water system works and clean up the waterways for good. This will not come to pass. If you expect criminal charges against them, you are not going to get that. I don't believe for 1 second that they are going to keep to that word. I really have a very hard time believing that, guys. It sounds tough on paper, but this is something I feel Labour are being way too soft on this. And the Environment Secretary Steve Reed there is definitely a connection between him and some of these water companies. There is a connection there. So I do not buy for 1 second that he is seeking the best interests of the British public when it comes to it. I feel like that they are doing the bare minimum, Labour, when it comes to this issue, as opposed to taking the strongest possible action on this. And people will argue, well, yes, things take time to work out, but yes, they do. But there also needs to be stronger sanctions, stronger action. If you're not going to nationalise the water companies, which you should do, you should be doing far more than what they're doing now when it comes to these water companies. And they're taking the mick. They are literally laughing at their customers. They're laughing at this government. They're laughing at everyone with all their money that they have, money that you pay into. Your money goes towards the water bill. It doesn't even go into the infrastructure. It just goes straight into their shareholders, into these executive bonuses. Very, very tiny amounts of it go towards improvements. They just get the littlest, the barest of minimum done to make it look like they're actually doing work. And obviously there's been the reports obviously that next year water bills are going to be going up as well. And if you think for 1 second that these water companies are going to improve your quality of water, I think you're going a bit too far with that one, if I'm honest. But what do you make of these company fines that are doing? Like just fining £2 and £1. Is it really? It's really insulting to injury when you think about it. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts on this. It's on the issues right now regarding the water companies down in the comments section below. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. And share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and finally support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.